It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. I never do that. I bring it every single day on all of the shows. We are exactly 1 week away from being daily, Monday through Friday, your 30 minutes of football fill. You get everything you need to know about the National Football League in 30 minutes or less from the perspective of a former player who covers this game all day, every day. It's what I do. We already did the college draft podcast this morning with Emery Hunt to get you ready for the biggest games in college football this weekend. Georgia against Oregon, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Utah, Florida. Make sure you're checking out, subscribe to the College Draft Podcast. We also have, I think, one of the best guys out there in terms of pro football analysts today. Dan Orlovsky is on today's show. Should be noted, by the way, actually, because of Dan's schedule this morning and my schedule over the weekend, we actually ended up recording with Dan Friday. So it's interesting. You know, he talked about how he felt like the Seahawks wanted Drew Lock to start. And then that night, Drew Lock played really poorly. So Geno Smith's the starter. So, but he knew that was a possibility. He just thinks deep down they kind of want to see what Drew Lock has, almost like they know what Geno Smith has. It's a new week. So here's what you need to know. We're giving away Maddens. I am giving away Madden codes. Primarily going to be, though, on social media. So make sure you're following me on Twitter at Ross Tucker NFL and Instagram and Facebook.com/Ross Tucker NFL, because you never know where I'm going to announce that we're giving away a Madden code. That's the key. In that way, you get a free Madden. You can always, by the way, be the spread the word winner via social media. All you have to do is quote tweet, retweet, Instagram like, Facebook love. I mean, it's really easy to win that contest. Sponsor confirmation email winner takes advantage of any of the sponsors you hear me talk about on the show, like Symbol or Athletic Greens or today, Simply Safe. And then the YouTube shout out. Love getting new YouTube subscribers, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, as we get more and better and funnier videos up there for you guys, like some of the ones from me calling the Eagles preseason games that I know have cracked people up over the last few weeks or so. At any rate, a lot going on, but man, I'm a big fan of Dan Orlovsky. That's why he is today's Big Show.
The Big Show.
As promised, happy to be joined by my buddy Dan Orlovsky, one of the voices, I guess I can say now, of Monday Night Football. I've seen you on a couple times in the preseason. That just sounds awesome, doesn't it? You should like wear a T-shirt or something that says that.
I was talking to my wife when I came home the other day, being like, it still feels very surreal, you know, like because the second preseason game was actually on Monday. The first was on Thursday. So it's wild, man. It's wild, but it's absolutely awesome.
So what's the deal? So basically anytime ESPN has two games and there's a few instances, you guys get the other game.
Yeah, we have like 4 games this year, and then next year it jumps to like 9. There's going to be some on like ABC as well as the years come. Like we have week 2 because that's the Monday night doubleheader. We have the Titans in Buffalo for week 2, so that's going to be absolutely unreal. We have like week 12 or something, which is Jacksonville and Denver and London for an early morning game, and then we have week 18, which will probably be like one of those Saturday games. And that's they don't know the opponent, obviously, but it has like playoff ramifications. That game has to mean something. And then the Super Bowl. So it's 4 this year and like 8 or 9 the next 2 years.
Wow, 8 or 9 the next 2 years is amazing.
Yeah.
I will be in Buffalo for that first Monday night game as well.
Yeah,
I'm doing that game for Westwood One on the radio.
should be a good fun.
So I will be there, and that will be incredible. That will be incredible. And you're still doing college football, right?
Yeah. I got Labor Day weekend, which is week 1. I have Utah at Florida to open the season. So that's also a sick game. So it's a fun fall so far.
Awesome. I love it. And I love following you on Twitter at Dan Orlovsky because just so much good information there, which is some of the things I want to ask you about. You expressed concerns with the Patriots offense like a long time ago, I remember.
Yeah.
And look, it's still just preseason, but that has sort of manifested itself. Where did that come from, Dan, when you first said, I don't know about the Patriots offense this year?
I think the honest part is I've been around good play callers and I've been around bad play callers. That's just the truth. And I've been the kid or the guy with the helmet on the field, getting the good play call in and feeling and seeing what the ease of when a good play call happens, or a good rhythm of a play call happens, or a good a way that a good play caller gets you into a good spot. And then I've been that same person with a play caller that's literally just calling plays. Hey, we have this play in our game plan this week. We're just going to throw it against the wall and let's see if it works in this moment. And I've seen how hard it is when they do that. And, when the reports were out that they were going to name a guy or it wasn't going to be a guy that had a history of it, I'm like, dude, that's a big deal. And I think that the simplest way I've said it is, Ross, is like building a game plan is a science. It is observable. It is repeatable. I mean, listen, you only get so many fronts and coverages in football. Hey, versus this front, we want to do this stuff. Versus this coverage, we want to do it this way. And then calling that play or tweaking that player at the right time is an art. It's a feel. You're seeing how they're doing something and you're trying to get ahead of it. So it's been a big concern of mine. I know it's just the preseason, so we'll see, but that's not a good situation and for any quarterback, let alone a young one.
Yeah, and they're going, as you said, from a guy in Josh McDaniels who had been doing it for a long time, who was very intentional in how he did it, and who was really good at it, to I don't think we really know. I think most people seem to think when the season comes, it might just be Belichick doing it, but it's an interesting experiment to have either Patricia or Judge. I don't know if you know this, Dan, but when I was with the Patriots in 2005 and 2006, Patricia was the assistant offensive line coach. So that's sort of how Belichick does it, is he usually, like, I guess if he thinks he's going to have Patricia maybe be on the defensive side of the ball someday, he starts him on O-line for a year or two so that when he's a D coordinator, he has a great feel for protection and what the offense is trying to do. He really likes having guys whose expertise on one side of the ball, flipping them because, who knows better how to attack. So the thought, I think, is that Patricia is such a defensive guy that he should know as an offensive play caller how to throw a defensive coordinator off.
And I agree with that sentiment, but that's where I fall into the theory or the belief that it's a science. Like, hey, building the game plan. Like, I'm not sitting here debating if Matt Patricia or Joe Judge can't build a plan or know how to hurt a defense because it's math or whatever. I'm with that. It's just calling it in the moment. It's funny because when Mac Jones was drafted in New England, one of the things that everyone said was such a good thing was, well, he's hit the perfect spot because he's got this guy, Josh McDaniels. Now Josh isn't there, and everyone's like, well, it's still okay. I'm like, well, how can you be the same person that says this but not believe this? So it's a big challenge. And now that Thornton's out with the collarbone injury, they lack some speed downfield. Like their offensive line has not looked good in the preseason. Like it's a big challenge right now.
So I like to ask people about teams that they've called recently or studied because you put a lot of time into it, right? And you did a Seahawks game recently. What a bummer for Drew Lock. I mean, he's going to start the game, huge opportunity. He gets COVID. He can't do it. What did you sort of glean from Seattle, from Geno Smith, Drew Lock? Should they get Jimmy G? I think I saw either you say somewhere or you tweet that you think they want Drew Lock to start, but yet everything we've seen seems to be Geno.
I just get the feeling that the organization wants Drew Lock to start. I feel that just hearing them talk about the competition or whatever, that they're intrigued by his talent, that they've probably always been intrigued since college by his talent. I think there's a little bit of the known with Geno, like Geno's a good player, and they know that. I think they also know where they are as a roster. They're being honest about where they are as an organization. Not that they're going to like be this historically bad team, but I really believe that they are saying this is a year for us to restock, so to speak, and recharge, and then we go again. I thought Geno, the times that we saw them, was far superior in his performance than Drew. Now it obviously comes out that Drew was not feeling well, but there was a moment, Ross, in the practice where Geno throws a touchdown pass, and it was a really nice play, like great move in the pocket. He throws the ball exactly where a guy needs it for a touchdown, and I watched Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf instantaneously go up to him like they would have with Russell Wilson. It felt like, like that's our guy. That's the guy. And then Drew, an hour later, throws a relatively poor interception, and there wasn't much of that interaction. And I feel like they certainly gravitate. Now, I know the plays are very different, right? But like it felt like they gravitated towards Geno. I thought Geno threw the ball better. He has, and if you know this better than him, like they're going to start 2 rookie tackles likely. I would want a guy that's a 10-year veteran for those rookie tackles that can help them with cadence, with body language, with the difficulties, right? The rigor. So I would start Geno Smith, but it just feels like they want Drew because the intrigue of his talent. Their draft class looks really good. I would not get Jimmy G. I don't think Jimmy G closes them to the San Francisco 49ers or the Los Angeles Rams. And I just don't think that he's going to close that gap to them, given where their talent is.
Talk to me about the Falcons, both Mariota and Desmond Ridder, because I know you did their game against the Jets on Monday night.
A little bit more high on the Falcons than probably the national media. So many close wins last year, but such an infusion of some of their young talent. There's a reason why they take a $40 million dead cap hit, because they know where they are as well, and they know where their talent level is. I think Marcus was really impressive in the regards of just trying to appreciate what his journey has been. And listen, Arthur Smith, their head coach, man, is an absolute superstar as far as knowing how to design plans and then dialing up plays. I think that offense is going to look very collegey. I think it's going to look very different than it did with Matt Ryan last year. They will use Marcus's skill set of athleticism, moving him out of the pocket, quarterback run, throwing on the move, changing all the places he's going to throw from. So he's thrown it well. I think the most impressive thing to me was how quickly the ball was coming out of his hands. I mean, that ball was coming out before receivers were ready for it. And, they've got some talent on the outside that's big. But I was impressed with Marcus and his mindset. I'm a Desmond Ridder guy. I think Ridder's got a chance to be a really good pro, man. I think this dude, because of his maturity, his football ability to own the line of scrimmage and know what the problem is and know what the answer is. Ross, the most telling thing or most shocking thing to me was Matt called 5 of his games at Cincy, maybe 3 or 4 in the last year. His arm is 20% stronger. He was throwing the snot out of the football. And I was like, dang, Desmond, you're ripping the ball right now. Really, really aware of what he's seeing and looking at. So it's Marcus's job. There's no question about it. But I think they got to feel really good about the future of Desmond Ridder. They're gonna be competitive in games, man. They got some size on the outside. They're gonna be competitive in games in December.
So the other team that night was the Jets, and here's my concern, and I wanted to get your thoughts about this. So obviously Zach Wilson got hurt. I called that game against the Eagles.
Right.
He overthrew one receiver by 5 yards. He grooved a pick, or he telegraphed it right to Kaiser White. Then he gets hurt. Dan, I don't know when they put him back in. I mean, he's going to have missed a lot of time, a lot of reps. They're already doing the thing where it's like, well, when he's 100%, but in my experience, that 100% is very much a sliding scale based on how well Flacco and the team will be playing. If they're 3-0, I don't think Zach Wilson's going to be 100% yet.
Totally agree with you, man. I was as angry and disappointed with a first game performance by a quarterback, his more than anybody. That first throw he misses to Garrett Wilson was the exact issue of last year. You know, like here's a layup. You know it. Layups in the NFL aren't often. Here's a layup. You throw this ball from me to this hotel room door, and we're going to get 12 yards. But you miss them. And then the interception is the exact problem of last year, that you're trying to be too cute with your eyes. You're trying to run before you ever learn how to crawl. And the fact that – and now they said that he hasn't looked like that all camp. I respect that, but he looked like that in the game. And I was a guy who was like, listen, he's going to take a big jump this year because they're talented on offense, man. And, you know, this didn't gain a lot of national steam, but it caught my attention in the booth when we were doing the game. Laura Rutledge was interviewing second-year receiver Elijah Moore. And he said, I don't really see a difference between Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson when they're in the game. And to me, that was telling. To me, that was sitting there going, you mean to tell me the guy who's like in his 15th or 16th year is dealing and operating and getting you, the receiver who's explosive, down the ball down the field, just as good as the second-year superstar talented quarterback? Like that to me was going, that guy wants Joe Flacco. Just an assumption of mine. So I agree. I think that this unit feels really confident in Joe when you hear them talk about it. I feel like they believe we're talented. The upgrade of talent is real. And Joe Flacco is in a good place where he can go operate it. We'll see, man. We'll see, because that first 4 games is tough too. And if they hop out to a 3-0 start and Joe's playing well, I agree with you. Zach Wilson's got to come on a little bit for me after that first, and I know it's one game, that first game performance.
Yeah, and then Garrett Wilson was talking about just raving over how Flacco throws such a catchable ball. And it's just like, when you get it, he takes something off of it. He's a rookie, Dan, so I think he doesn't realize.
Yeah, but that's not like a random interview, right? Like that you've had those feelings when it comes out like in the flow of answering, like you felt that, you've thought that yourself.
Right. So I want you to explain that though, because that doesn't sound real good for Zach Wilson either, that Garrett Wilson's going on and on about how Flacco throws such a catchable ball.
Well, I mean, so the route is dependent on the type of throw or what's going to make it easier for a receiver. There's moments when guys got to fire a ball. Do you remember last year, Stephon Diggs talking about Josh Allen in the cold weather, and he was like, you got to take a little off it to make it easier for me to catch? There's moments when guys want, I call it, put a little love on the football, where there's just a little touch or a little pace because of their route or, how they're coming out of their break or, a back shoulder ball is not a fastball getting stepped on, but it's kind of floated back so I can adjust my body and it's an easier catch. The RPMs, there's certain throws where guys just want maybe a little bit of like a softer throw, or I can go run to it rather than putting it on my chest right now. And so it's all about the type of throw that you make rather than, hey, you're open, so I have to throw this Jacob deGrom fastball through your face.
All right, you got to check him out on Twitter. He's an absolute great follow, at Dan Orlovsky. I'm a big fan. At Dan Orlovsky 7, actually. At Dan Orlovsky 7, which is how many kids he might have. No, he doesn't have that many, but he's got a bunch. Really appreciate the time, man. It'll be fun to see you up in Buffalo. That place is awesome.
Yeah,
those are my people up there. And have a great season, man.
Thanks, buddy. You too, man. You're the best.
So I was away over the weekend, obviously, down in Miami for the Dolphins and the Eagles. It is so nice when you come back to your house and you have Simply Safe and you know that no one was in your house. Because every once in a while, you never know, right? You always know your home is safe with 24/7 professional monitoring. Those of you that are longtime listeners, not even long time, I tell you every time about Simply Safe, about the fact that I've had a couple of unfortunate incidents at my home during my life. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. First time we didn't have a security system. Second time we did. Makes a big, big difference. Huge. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/Tucker. You can save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. That's pretty nice. Visit simplysafe.com/Tucker to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Tuck's Takes.
Hey, Ross, good morning. Let's start, as you already you already previewed it, that the Seahawks will name Geno Smith the Week 1 starter after a poor performance by Drew Lock this weekend.
So funny, Brian, because you and I recorded that interview with Dan Orlovsky on Friday before the game that night. But he had been around the team. He had called their second preseason game. He had gotten those vibes. But you can't fool the players. And if Geno Smith has clearly been better, then he's clearly been better. And he should start then as a result. So that makes perfect sense. After I saw a couple bad throws by Drew Lock, I tweeted Friday night from my hotel room in Miami, your Week 1 starter in Seattle, Geno Smith. Because there was just no way they were going to be able to start Drew Lock after that.
Tuck's Takes.
Very disturbing news over the weekend came from now former Bills punter Matt Araiza. He's now facing civil lawsuit for a gang rape of a 17-year-old while at San Diego State last season.
I read the lawsuit, or at least whatever somebody posted online with some of the details, and can't even really get into it. I know this much. If you're the Buffalo Bills with the aspirations they have this year, from a strictly football standpoint, which always feels weird to talk about given how much more significant this issue is. Strictly football standpoint, they cut last year's punter, Matt Hack, who's a good punter, for Araiza, and Hack's gone now. He's with the Colts. He's going to be their punter. So now the Bills are scrambling to find a punter. They released Araiza, and this is one where, again, from a football standpoint, the Bills are going to have to do some soul searching as to why they didn't uncover any inkling of this before the draft, why they just found out about this now. Because you have to think they didn't find out about it that long ago. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have cut Matt Hack when they did. But the allegations are horrific. And the Bills were trying to find answers. They couldn't get answers. So I think they wanted to eliminate Araiza. I always wonder in a situation like that, how much of it was because of his behavior and how much of it was because they thought it would be a distraction on the team, and they don't want that, especially not for a punter.
Tuck's Takes.
Commanders running back Brian Robinson in stable condition after being shot multiple times in what looks like an apparent carjacking.
Absolutely awful. Again, absolutely awful. Greg was just talking about Brian Robinson being better than Antonio Gibson, potential 3-down back on Friday. On Friday's Ross Tucker Football Podcast. And now here we are, gets shot multiple times. Man, it just makes you feel awful for Brian. Thank goodness that he's okay. Ron Rivera said he's in good spirits. Sounds like it could have been much, much worse. Very, very scary.
Tuck's Takes.
Darren Waller fires his agent amidst now an apparent hold-in.
Right, so he's been out like the whole camp because of a hamstring injury. But I think this is pretty clearly a hold-in. He wants a new contract before the season starts. Heck, we talked to him about that here on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast when he came on. What was that, May maybe? I think I'm the one that said to him, you can't possibly play on that contract this year. I think he listened. I think he realizes he needs a new deal. I don't blame him.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, let's get to some of the injuries, including TJ Watt, Deontay Johnson, and Saints first-round pick Trevor Penning, who had a torn ligament in his foot.
So it sounds like the Deontay Johnson and TJ Watt injuries are not serious, but it's not good to get maybe your most important offensive player and clearly your team's best player, to get both of them dinged up in some way going into week one. Even if they can play, that's not a good thing. They're going to miss some time of practice, you would imagine. They're going to be less than 100%. It's a real negative in my mind. By the way, prediction, they will end up changing the rule on that split zone cut from the tight ends now that Thibodeau and TJ Watt both got hurt. That's my prediction there. As for Trevor Penning, he wasn't going to beat out Hirsch for that starting left tackle job for the week one. I think eventually maybe he would have been in there, but now it might be a lost season for Penning with this torn ligament. It's a shame.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, now that the preseason is done, anything else? Any overall thoughts that you want to address here?
Well, not really overall. I guess it's just as much as some of the things are from over the weekend I thought that jumped out. This Lance McCutcheon from the Rams, the wide receiver, I called his FCS championship game for Montana State against North Dakota State. He is good. I'm not surprised he's making this many plays for the Rams. Not surprised at all. Denzel Mims had a big game yesterday for the Jets after his trade request. It's almost like the Jets were featuring him to try to get more in return, and he showed he can make plays at this level. And then Demarcus Robinson had a huge first game for the Ravens, which is encouraging. They obviously wanted to get him a bunch of reps in their offense to get him ready for the regular season. And even Sam Howell from the Commanders, I thought, did a lot of really positive things again down there in Washington. That's one to watch if Wentz struggles. Do they put in Heineke, which they kind of already know what he is, or do they go ahead and give Sam Howell a shot later on in the year? I'll be curious to see how that one unfolds. Other than that, Bri, fun way to start the week. We'll have the Even Money podcast tomorrow, where Steve and I will make our official season win total bets for the 2022 NFL season. Very exciting. I think we're done here. Oh, Bri, I always forget. Thank you for your reminder. We've got the shout-outs. Mondays are tough, man. Pizza Boy Brewing, myfrontpagestory.com, which is the greatest gift ever. Sporticulture, very cool gift. humanheadnyc.com, another cool gift. These are all good gifts. Steakhousesports.com, with the season being here, my man Chris Aronchek. Evergreen Economics, and go-bengals.com if you're a Bengals fan. I think we're done here now.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.